Hello everyone, I'm Dave Walker, and today we're going to do a CTF walkthrough on the TryHackMe platform, and the box today is going to be Year of the Fox. Now this is rated as a hard box, and the description actually says, don't underestimate the sly old fox. This room includes a competition with $4,000 worth of prizes to celebrate TryHackMe hitting 100,000 members. And we can see that there's 10 prizes here, and actually an additional 3 prizes will be chosen at random for other people. That said, the room is 92 days old and there are 1,434 users in here, so it is unlikely there's still going to be prizes available, but the room is rated as hard. Let's see how hard. So the first thing I need to do is copy the IP address, and we'll jump to the terminal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new play area. So I'm going to jump into CTF TryHackMe, and I'm going to run my nifty new CTF script, and I'm going to call it YOTF because that's what the room's called here. And I'm going to give it the IP address 10.10.73.67. And as I jump into YOTF, we should see down the bottom the IP address. There we go, the box name YOTF with the IP address there. And what that's actually done is it's made $echo IP. And what this means is the variable $IP expands to the box IP address we're actually working against. And what this means is that when I run some tools, I can just put $IP in place of the IP address, and it will just expand, the variable will expand and for us to be able to use. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is run Nmap. So I'm going to run Nmap -pn because I want to assume this host to be online. -st because I want to limit this to TCP to start with. If we don't get what we need from TCP, we'll look at UDP afterwards. -sv because I want Nmap to do some version identification, so that will grab some banners and look at other heuristics to try and determine what versions of software we're actually running on the box we're targeting. -sc because I want Nmap to use the default scripts that are included. -p because I want to search all 65,535 ports. -OA because I want to output in all formats. And I'm going to, the location for my output, I want to put in a folder called reports, $IP, which will be the name of the actual report, and then the $IP address at the end, which is the actual host we're actually hitting. So let's kick that off. The next thing I need to do is also I need to keep a report of what it is we're actually doing. So let's open this here, and we will open the report. This file was created as part of my nifty new CTF script. And what we'll do to start, we'll put the IP address in here, and we'll also get the preview up there. So we're writing this in Markdown, and this is it rendered here. And as quick as that, Nmap has already come back to us. So the first thing I want to do actually is get that Nmap into a Markdown format. So I'm going to use this Nmap2 Markdown py, which is available on GitHub. I'm going to run it against the XML output that was created as part of that. That's good. So we've got a really simple here that I can put into here. There we go. And then we can see that the report's been updated with the services. So we've got 3 services running on here. And what services actually are they? Okay, so the first one is port 80. So if we just open a new tab here, let's copy that address again. Okay, so we're greeted with a username and password request. So, okay, so if I put in the username and password, which is what everyone always uses, oh, on this occasion they haven't. So we can't get in with username and password. Okay, so we have to think a bit harder. But what is interesting is the realm here, which is what you're actually authenticating against. This is provided from the server to the client, but Chrome isn't showing me this. You want in, got to guess the password. Now this feels like a bit of a clue here that we're going to have to do some brute forcing, because normally when you do many CTFs, it's not about brute forcing, but this feels like a bit of a clue that we're going to have to do some brute forcing. So it's running on Ubuntu, and if we press cancel here, we can see the banner here, and it's running on 2.4.20. Now that says to me it's actually quite a recent version of Ubuntu, so we're probably not going to be looking at an intrinsic vulnerability with the actual web server itself. So we're looking at, so the second service we've got is Samba or SMB, CIFS, which is normally a Windows file sharing protocol, but on Linux it's the Samba software. Okay, so we've got that running on port 139 and 445. And we've got a host name here. Okay, that's useful information. So let's put that in our notes section at the bottom of the report. Host name. There we go, because that might be useful for something later on. What else do we have? Okay, so other than the fact it is running both HTTP and SMB, we've not really seen anything too useful there. Okay, so the next thing I need to do, so we've got a clue that we're going to have to do some brute forcing, but we don't know whether it's going to be, we don't know the username or the password. So if we try and do brute forcing with both of just any username or any password, it's going to last forever. So we need to find some indication of what the username might be. Now, Samba quite often does leak this kind of information. So I think what we should do is do some enumeration on Samba itself and see what that gives us. So there's a tool called enum for Linux. And if we run it with -a in the IP address, what that will do is it will do all enumeration of the Samba share. So we're seeing some good stuff come back to us straight away. Oh, I did just see something bounce past then. Okay, so we've got a share called YOTF. Now this is using anonymous login, so we're not actually seeing anything authenticated. So anyone that can connect to this box can see this information. So we can see here there's a share called YOTF with Fox's stuff keep out. Now I think that's worthy of taking a screenshot for us to put in our report. I do tend to take more screenshots than is required. And the reason is because when you finish with an engagement, you don't have access to it anymore. So I think it's always better to over document and then you can remove stuff later. So let's take a screenshot of that. The other thing we've learned is that the minimum password length is 5. And the password age isn't that useful, but the maximum password age is useful. But the minimum password length is 5, so 5. It's not super complex, but it's enough that it's going to be a bit of a pain. Any other information? Scroll back. Okay, this is good. So we've learned here that we've got 2 different users here. We've got Fox and Rascal. So let's just take a note of that. Users, Fox, Rascal. Go. Right. So what can we do now? I think that what we can try and do is we can try and do brute forcing against Samba with them 2 users. So now we've got 2 usernames. We're reducing what it is we're going to actually have to check. So let's start doing that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Hydra, which I'm not a big fan of Hydra, primarily because I don't like the syntax. Also, I don't like its limitations on its use. To me, it's not free software. So if we do Hydra, and then I want to do so Hydra. So what I need to do first is actually add our usernames to a text file. So let's do. We'll add both these usernames to usernames.txt. So if we do at users.txt, we'll see we've got Rascal and Fox in a text file. So now let's do Hydra with the usernames. Oh, I've spelled Hydra wrong. With the username. And we'll use the RockQ password list and we'll check it against SMB. We'll see what that gives us. So we'll leave that running and see if that gives us anything we want. So that's going to try both Rascal and Fox against a massive password list. Okay, so let's open a new tab. Now we couldn't log into the web service, so we should probably try and do some brute forcing on that as well. So let's run Hydra on that as well. Now this time I'm probably going to increase the thread count, or sorry, task count, to 64. So it'll try and do 64 attempts concurrently. And we'll give it the same text file with the same word list. But this time we're going to do HTTP GET requests. So that's what this was doing here against the root location, root URL. So we'll press enter on that and get that running as well. Now, has SMB given us anything? Not yet. Okay, so it's not given us anything yet. Ah, there we go. We've got some success. Okay, so that's useful. So we've got the username Rascal and the password is this numeric number. So let's take a copy of that and we'll put that there. Okay, so we've got a password for 1. Now, the SMB brute force hasn't returned anything yet. I'm now starting to think that's unlikely our way in, so I'm just going to cancel that. And it has stored a restore file, so if we did want to carry that on, we could just run it with -r and it would carry on where it left. But I think we'll close that there because I think we've got our next path forward. So if we now refresh that here and log in with Rascal, password there. Hey, look, we're in. Okay, so now, so what have we got here? Rascal search system. Oh, okay, so if I just press search, I get back 3 text. Okay. So I guess we could be looking at some SQL injection or code execution. I'm not exactly sure at the moment. Oh, there. Okay, so it looks like there's some nifty JavaScript running. Let's just look at the source. Ah, okay, fine. Yeah, so what we're seeing here is that some characters aren't allowed up. This is intentionally unreadable, so we can't work out what it's doing. But either way, we can't run. A gives us something different, but we can't run what we need to run because there's some kind of filtering of what the allowed characters. Okay, so what I think we'll do is we'll just jump straight into burp and just do some digging into that. Okay, so we'll start a temporary project. Okay, and we will close that out. We will run proxy and we'll actually launch Burp's own browser because it's already set up for the proxy. I could use Foxy proxy or something like that, but just for simplicity, I will use Burp's browser. We'll jump to that IP address, username Rascal, password that. So we're in. Now let's start intercepting. So if I put a search, there we go. Okay, so we can see the request here, and let's forward that. And this is, yeah, so if we do that again, now if we throw this to the repeater, we can actually run other things. So the things that it said were invalid before, we can now run. So let's just try something like no file return. Okay, so I can run this a bit faster without any limitation. Okay, so I'm not getting anything immediately back that's giving me any clues on what the actual vulnerability is. What I think I'll do is I'll run this through the burp intruder, because I think that'll give us a bit more indication about what's going on. So let's actually throw this to the intruder and we'll run it. We won't URL encode stuff, and then we'll run it against a simple SQL injection fuzzing. Try that. So let's start the attack. So let's have a look. Okay, so that was what it threw over. Response: no file return. Okay, so these are all 187. They're probably the same. Okay, that's returned all 3 file names. This is the length of the response. Question: sort by. Isn't really giving me the information I wanted. What I could do is I could try and, so we know some characters it doesn't seem to like. So what I can do is I can use crunch to create a quick word list, one character in length, and then I'll use all symbols. So I just want all the symbols to be returned to me. Let's try doing an attack just with these symbols and see what we get. Close that. Let's clear that, paste what we just created. We'll start that. What do we have? Length. So quest is a question mark. Response. Start. We've got an idea of what symbols return different. So I'm just trying to understand what the server's actually doing. I'm still not entirely sure whether this is going to be an SQL injection or a command injection. Okay, let's go back to experimenting. Close that. We'll go back to the repeater. So I can try and so the problem is this is a blind attack, so I'm not quite sure what it's doing. So I can try and do something like, I don't know, I do. Let's just try and ping my IP address, local IP address. So I'm going to do a ping of a single ping to me, see whether that gives us any. Problem is this could be succeeding or not. So I could run TCP dump or Wireshark and look for the return. But actually, I wrote a nifty tool called Icmp Notifier. And what this does is if anyone pings my IP address, it comes up with a notification. That is on GitHub, and I'll add it to the comments below. But if we just try and ping myself, what we should see, there we go. We see the notification appear. Yeah, we can see that I pinged myself. So because we're doing a blind attack here, we can't see whether it succeeded or not. We're not getting any response here. So we'll run that again, leave it running, and then if we do succeed, we'll see a pop-up. So let's just try and run this. Okay, so that's still not working. What else could I be trying to do? Maybe. So we've added a new speech marks there. So let's try adding another escaping that speech. Okay, that still hasn't worked. Maybe we need to... Ah, okay, that worked. Okay, so is that reliable? Okay, so every time we run that, we're seeing the single ping come back. Okay, but we're still not getting any response. That's annoying. Okay, what can I do to get a response? I mean, maybe... Okay, it's possible this is always going to be a blind attack, but if we can get something back, that would be really helpful. I wonder if I do something like... Ah, okay, that's useful. So if we put a carriage return in there, a new line, we actually do get back the output of the command we run. So it's no longer a blind attack now. We can now see input by putting in a new line. Okay, that is good. Okay, so if we still need... Oh, that works as well. Okay, oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so now we can put any command in here and we should be able to see output. So let's put who am I? Ah, okay, so it's running as the Ubuntu default web server user. See here the users and groups that we're in. Okay, I wonder, does that work? Okay, so in our current directory, there's just a search.php. Let's just see, can we output search.php? No, okay. So we can't actually see the output of search.php. I wonder whether we can do base 60. See what that gives. In fact, we can close that. Oh, sorry. .64 code. Yeah. Okay, so it gave us a partial output, but not enough of what we wanted. Okay. I wonder whether we can do other path traversal. So let's do. Let's see what's above us. Okay, so there's a folder called PHP. And above that, index.php. Ah, web flag. Okay. So web flag dot. Let's try and output that. Ah, there we go. Okay, so we've got our first flag. That copy and then paste that. Okay, web flag. There we go. Submit. Whoop whoop. Yep, answer's correct. Okay, good. So we're getting there. We need to learn hotkeys. I do. Okay, so now can we actually get an interactive shell on this? Okay, so let's have a look at Test Monkey. So this is where I quite often get my reverse shells from. Here we go. Where this is the page I was looking for. There we go. Okay, so the bash one always works everywhere. Let's give that a go. So let's take that. And what I need to do is basically replace my IP address and that with one that the server can then contact me to give me a. So let's do NC, and we'll run it on all the 7s. Let's put that in there and change the port to all the 7s. And I need my IP address here. I'll paste that in. Let's run that. So we should see, if this has worked right, we should see a shell come back to us. So let's send that. Okay, so something there is a character that's not allowed. It could be one of these. Okay, so what we need to do, okay, let's try this. Let's take that, and then we will try and base64 encode it, similar to what we did earlier. We'll echo that, then we'll base64 code it. So let's try that. So now, if we echo that, and we will pipe that into base64 decode, and then we will pipe the output of that into bash. So it should execute the output of what's been created. So let's run that. Jump back to our shell, press send. There we go. Okay, good. So we've now got interactive shell. Okay. I won't try and upgrade the shell because this is a bash shell and that doesn't handle being upgraded similar to a PHP. A PHP or a Python shell can be upgraded to be a better experience, but with bash you can't. Okay, so what are we going to do now? What I should probably do is run Linux enum, because that's going to give. In fact, actually, before I do that, let's just have a look at that search.php. Okay, so this is the command that was being run. So it first of all checks that. In fact, let's paste this. Take that. Paste that. Search.php. So what can we see? So first of all, it checks that it's a post that's being sent to this search.php. Then it's going to take the input. Okay, so it's the and symbol it didn't like, or the dollar. Okay, so that's why I had to base64 encode it, because it doesn't like them two symbols. That's why it gave back the invalid character. Okay, so this is how the command injection actually works. So it takes the input. Okay, so it's finding. So it is looking for the file name of the input. That's what it's doing. Then it's tacking on the query we gave it, and then it's throwing that into exargs. Why would it do that? That just seems kind of crazy. So what we did by giving it the new line, it outputted. So the new line to start with, so terminated the command there, then took our new command and put that. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, all right. Well, that shows how we managed to get the command injection. So we can close that. Right. So what we need to do now is probably get the Linux enumeration script. I think we've finished with the burp browser, so we'll get rid of that. We'll go back to this browser here. And what we'll do is we'll look for Linux enum. This one here. Grab it raw. We'll grab that, download it. So we're still in the reverse shell there. We'll download it here. We will make a simple web server and we'll use Python 3 and we'll run this on port 5555. Okay, so that's good. Now, if I do cd temp, go, and do we have wget? Yes, we do. Wget the IP address, and the file name was this. We'll paste that there. Oh, I didn't tell it the port number. And Linux. Why didn't that work? Oh, I didn't run wget. Why am I trying to do it on port? And I've just seed. Okay, so I've just lost the shell. That's fine. We'll just have to go back to here, rerun that command. There we go. We've got the shell back. And so let's try that again. So we'll go to temp, and we'll actually do a wget now. And it should be on port. Did it again. Why did I try and do it on 7777? Last time. So the netcat's running on 777. I need to wget to all the 5s. Go. Hey, God, that shouldn't have been that hard, honestly. Right, so we'll chmod Linux enum, and then we'll get Linux enum running. Okay, there we go. So that's good. And we've got colors. That is good news. Okay, so let's just go from the top. What do we have? Okay, so we're running on 1804.4 point release. We're running as WU data. We knew that. We've got the user, Fox and Rascal. We knew about them. This is interesting. So something is running on port 22, probably SSH. But the interesting thing, it's only listing on localhost 127.0.0.1. So this box appears to be running SSH, but we can't connect to it from the outside world. Oh, here's our command line that got ran. So you can see here that we added this, 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 and this, and then it carried on running as it would before. So the only thing which has really jumped out at me, and Linux enum didn't really make a big deal of it, SSH running bound to localhost. Quite sure why you would do that. Yeah, so that's the, we already knew that. That's the HTTP password which is encoded. That doesn't help us because that was for the web server. We've already got path. Okay. So as I say, the only thing which really jumped out at me is SSH on localhost. Now, we can tell that SSH is running on localhost by do this. Yeah. So if we do cat etc. Well, hang on. Let's just try and do we have NC on here? No, we don't. Yeah, so we can see here that SSH is definitely running. Now, I would be able to SSH to this. So if I do SSH rascal, because we know what rascal's password is, or so we can do SSH at 127.0.0.1. Now what I'll do is I'll make it so it just runs a single command. Who am I? Okay, so I can't use the SSH command. Why is that? Presumably they've not got the executable bit set. Bin SSH. Yeah. Why that's not. Oh, because it's root. There we go. So it doesn't have the global bit set. Okay. So that's fine. And I don't have read access on it. So I can't even copy it locally. Okay, what we can do is we can use socat to actually forward the rebind the port. So we can actually use socat to try and make a connection. Let's try and do that. You could do this with netcat as well, but socat does make it a bit easier because socat supports threading. So the next thing we need to do is now download socat static Andrew something. Here we go. He makes good ones. There we go. Okay, so we will download that. So let's copy that, and we'll have to download it onto our local machine and then upload it because these machines don't have internet access. So let's load that. There we go. Yep, so we've got a 64-bit binary. There we go. So we should just be able to download that straight because we've still got our web server running on port 5555. Remember port 5555, please, team. 5555. socat. There we go. Okay, so that's good. So we've got socat now. The actual command for, so we need to chmod it first. Now the actual command for socat is socat TCP listen, and we'll make it listen on port 1234 because that's not otherwise being used, and then we'll allow basically connections to be able to be recreated to it. So if we disconnect for any reason, we will be able to reconnect. Fork and the port. So we want to port forward port 1234 to port 22. Localhost 22. So now if I run that, what have I done wrong? Well, that's right. Or it was that. Yeah. I made a typo? Oh, there we go. I must have made a spelling mistake. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, that makes sense to me now. Okay, fine. So now what we should be able to do is actually just SSH, because now it should have, in fact, if I do an Nmap now, yeah, and we'll just do dash P 1234 $IP. There we go. So we can see that the port 1234 is now open. So if we do rascal at still the same IP address of the box, so we can put $IP, but this time port 1234. Hey, look at that. Okay, good. So what was the password? There we go. Okay, so I thought I would be able to. I wonder. Really, I should have background. If I press Control Z now, it will locally background. It isn't what I want. So there we go. So we've lost the connection. So let's run that again. And I wonder why. Where's the config? Yeah. Hang on. Cat sshd config grep allow. Okay. So this is a non-standard configuration. Allow users. Yeah, so we can see that only Box is allowed to connect to SSH. Okay, so we can't get in using the Rascal user, we have to get in using the Box user. But now, what we could try and do, so if we rerun, so we could try and do brute forcing. Now we've got access to SSH, we could try and do brute forcing on that. So let's just jump straight back to temp, and then we'll rerun the socat command we had there. In fact, oh, it's already new. Oh yeah. Okay. So so the socat binary is still running, even though we disconnected from our session. It's still running from when it was before. Okay. So let's exit that. So what we need to do now is run hydra against SSH. So let's do hydra, and we won't go for that many threads this time. This time the username will be Fox, and the password we'll use RockU, and this will be SSH. How do you specify the port for? Is it -S? I believe it is. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that should be need. Okay, so I'm trying to pick up the restore file from earlier on, even though the restore file isn't for SSH. Wait 10 seconds. So taking SSH 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's not giving us anything at the moment. I wonder if we can find anything else. We're on the server. So hoping that was going to give us what we need. Having doubts now. I wonder if we can see anything in the logs. Looking at the permissions. So keeping in mind I'm an unprivileged user. So I'm looking at really, so we can see VMware logs. I don't think that's really going to. We can look at the fail log. Empty. The auth log is a symlink to dev null. Doesn't help us. No, it doesn't look like it's going to be. No other password lists we've there. What I might have to do is just pause the video until that runs. See whether that gives us. Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, we're back. So it did take, well, you can see here I started it a few minutes ago and it took, probably about 5 minutes, but it did find a valid password for Fox. So now we should be able to SSH in as Fox. So let's SSH Fox at $IP port 1234. Hey, look at that, we're in. Okay, so let's take a note of that. So we know the username for that now. So let's add that to our there. Both numbers. Interesting. Use of passwords. There was no indication because we could have just enumerated up numbers. So we're in there. There we go. So we've got the user flag. So let's cat that. Okay, good. Okay, feel like we're getting somewhere now. So let's add that to our TryHackMe there. Our user flag, submit, whoop, whoop. Okay, we're in. So now we need to find the root flag. That's the only thing we've got left now. Okay, so what we could do is we could rerun the enum script from that we retrieved earlier, so we've still got access to that. It was in temp we put it, wasn't it? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So anyway, it's not there. I don't know why. Very strange. I'm not sure I understand that myself. So let's do that. And the HTTP service was running on all the 5s, wasn't it? Just check that before. Yeah, all the 5s, and the script we want is there. Okay. chmodit plus x. We'll rerun that, see what that gives us. Okay. Oh, it is nice to have a proper shell rather than a reverse shell. Okay, that ran nice and quick. So let's just go through this. What do we have? Ah, okay. We can do sudo without supplying a password. We'll paste that in our report. But we can get rid of burp now, can't we? Burp. Yep. So it's so we've got some kind of sudo access. Other than that, there's nothing actually of use. So if we do sudo-l, okay, so we can see that. Okay. So we can run shutdown without a password. I don't believe there's a breakout for that. Let's go to. But actually, just looking at it, user spin. There's no. Let's just. Okay, so it's got quite a recent modification date compared to when the box was built. 8.2K. Just look at my one on this local machine. It is also Ubuntu, but this is 2004. Oh, hang on. So on my machine, it's actually a systemd binary. Whereas on this one, it's not. Strange. I wonder whether this is some modified binary. The strings isn't available. Well, let's SCP that down. So I'll just disconnect a sec. We'll SCP the box at $IP. Just bring it down locally. So we're just going to SCP it down to ourselves to see what we can find. Port. Good. Is that? Okay, so strings shutdown. There's nothing too useful there. I wonder I could use let's do some let's look at using radar dash a shutdown. So we'll run AFL. Oh, so we've got a main. So let's do. So hang on. I want to do what? PDF main. Seek main. PDG. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it looks like it's just simply executing power off. So I mean, power off is a different. So on my local system, which power off? Okay, so use the SBN power off. So the real shutdown is a systemd command, but this is actually just calling the power off command. But what's interesting is it doesn't have an absolute path. Now, normally SSH sudo enforces this, and it's not a problem. But I'm going to guess it doesn't. So I think this is going to be our way in. Now, if I do, hang on, let's go back to the SSH. Oh no, I killed it. So SSH, get the password again. Okay, so now if I do, if I copy the bin sh and I put it into a power off command, and then if I chmod that, and then if I add that to my path, export. So if I look at my current path, $path, then if I add this to my new path, so if I path equals, and I'll put it at the front of it, so I'll say my present working directory. Then I'll put $path. There we go. And now, if I do echo $path, we can see that we've got our home directory. So when it's looking for the power off binary, it will look in our current directory first. So now, if I run sudo shutdown, I think that should work. Yeah. Do I need -e to preserve my environmental variables? Do not have to. Oh no, that did work. Okay. All right. Good. Good. Okay. That's really good. So now, who am I? I'm root. Yay! Okay. So let's go to root. So let's actually take a screenshot of this to show what we actually did. We'll add that into here. Also, I think I'll also include. Okay, so now if I go to root, there's the flag. What? Not here, go find. Okay, that's strange. Normally it's always in the root file. So maybe there's another file somewhere else. I mean, let's just look across the entire file system. So we'll look for a type dash F, and I guess in the name, I'm still going to guess it's called somewhere along the name root. And then we'll just hide anything which is like proc and stuff like that. Let's try. Oh, what's this at the bottom? Did you think of? There we go. Oh, okay, that's not helpful. Okay, so let's try that again. Cat that. So what they've done is they've split it up. So here's the flag here. It's that. So let's do tr -d. And okay, so what that should do is it will remove the carriage returns. So that's the flag here. So we'll add that into our flag. There we go. So actually the box is complete, but there is something else there. What's this? So this looks like it's a base 64 encoded of something. So let's just do echo that base 64D. Okay, so that's something else. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you guys to have a look at. Anyway, so thanks very much for your time, everyone. I really enjoyed this one. This was a really good box, and it was hard. And thanks for sticking with me. And please subscribe and like as well, and do the old notification thing because that really helps me. Thanks very much, everyone. Goodbye.